Okay, so I've had a little bit more time to play around with this 1.4 update, and they've actually added a lot of amazing features. Twinshot machine is obviously great, but they've added a lot of stuff, a couple really nice features that I didn't even realize. So we're going to dive into those. I did make a video yesterday kind of experimenting and playing around with Twinshot a little bit more, so we're not going to dive too much into that today. I'm going to give a really quick overview of Twinshot machine, but then we're going to jump into all of the other useful features. So if you're already familiar with the Twinshot machine, just go ahead and feel free to skip forward to any of those other features. And I'll have all of the links to those down below in the description in the chapters I'll have set up. So feel free to jump ahead to whichever feature you want to learn about. So this is just a sample playback machine. It doesn't have any actual sampling capabilities. So you have to have the samples already set up, and then you just import them into here into one of the 64 slots that you have available for it. And then once a sample is in here, you have sample slot 1 and 2 that you can pick up to 2 samples on those slots. And then you have this mix parameter here where you can mix between the 2 samples. And then this row here at the top, that only affects sample slot 1. So we have tune. And then we have a filter cutoff. It can be low pass or high pass. And then lastly, we have the decay time. You can actually play any of the samples in reverse as well. We have to take it and scroll all the way to the left until we get to -21. And you'll see the arrow has changed to the left. And then when we play that, it will play backwards. Instead of one shot, you can also repeat or loop it as well. By default, if you load them on 1 through 4, by default, sample 2 is going to be in just the one shot mode. But if you load it on track 5 through 8, by default, it's in loop. And I thought that that's the only way that you could change it. It was just hard coded, 1 through 4 is one shot, 5 through 8 is repeat. And that's not the case. You can actually change it. So if we go into track 1, there's 2 different ways that we can change it. So if we go into the amp and we change to ADSR, and then we go back to here, you'll see now it's in repeat or loop mode. The other way we can change that is if we go back into here and we change that back to ADH, but we go into the hold time and we put it all the way to note. And we go back here, then again, it's still in loop mode. All right, so the next feature is using key tracking to modulate up to 4 parameters. So I have this this kind of chip tune sound here. If I go into the sound menu by hitting function sound and you go to setup and key tracking, this is the new menu here. You have up to 4 parameters where you can set to modulate. So this is what it sounds like without anything on. So I have a couple parameters that I have set up here. So this first one is the offset. And if I start turning this up, you'll notice that as I go up and down the scale of the keyboard, it will start modulating this parameter. And I have this other one here set to speed. And if I turn that up, then we get a really interesting effect here. And that's just 2 parameters. You have up to 4 here, so you can play around with this. This is really cool. You can probably do some pretty crazy stuff with this. Really unique, fun sound design tool here. All right, another very useful feature they added is called track relations. Specifically, the ability to have one track trigger a choke for another track. You get to track relations by hitting the menu, going to pattern, and then all the way at the bottom you have track relations there. So we click that. This first page is how you trigger other tracks at once. So if I start adding these on, then you can have it trigger as many tracks as you want, which is pretty cool. And then the second option here is to trigger chokes. So if I play this here, it doesn't sound quite right because we need this hi-hat to choke this other hi-hat. So if I turn this on, then it's going to sound like this. So I have this here choking track 5, so it doesn't ring out when it goes back to that hi-hat hit. So this choke option is super useful for percussion. All right, so the next feature is they added a filter pan to the FX Tracks multi-mode filter. Really cool. Super fun way to add a little bit of a stereo imaging to your mix. All right, moving along to the next feature here. So they added another trig condition called LST or last. So this is really useful for creating like a fill or a transition when changing patterns. So I'll show you an example of that here. I have this this snare pattern, which right now it's just only on the 5 and the 13. And then these I have trig locked to that new parameter called last. So obviously you aren't hearing these last three, but when I queue up to change to another pattern, then these three are going to play right before it changes, which will introduce kind of a fill, and it sounds really great for transitions. So see how it kind of did that little fill right before it changed. So really useful. I'm a huge fan of that fill parameter. But this makes it even easier. So if you know that you want to do that every time, then you can just set it to this and then it will do that for you. Okay, and then the other thing they added to the trig conditions is on these A-B ratios here, they actually added the false parameter, which is that line up at the top that you see. And these are just the opposite of with it on. This is just going to play when the condition is not met. So they also added Prepare Mutes, which this is probably one of my favorite features of the update. And what that means is if we go into mute mode here, then if you hold function, you can queue up a bunch of tracks to be unmuted or muted. And then when you release, it will apply that. We can start playing this, and then I can queue all these up here. And then when I'm ready, I just release, and then it'll apply all of them. Yeah, this is great. All right, next feature is page autocopy. That's just kind of a quality of life feature. So if we go into personalize here and then go to page autocopy. So this is just always on by default in all these boxes, but now it gives the ability to turn it off. And what this does is, so with it on, we go to this track 4 here. It's only one page. So if I add a second page here and then go to that second page, it will automatically copy what's on the first page to the second page. If you don't want this, you just go into the personalize menu and turn that off. So now when we create a third page, it should be blank. Okay, another new feature that involves live recording mode. So if we go in and you live record any of the parameters for automation, it'll just apply that to all of the trigs. If you don't want that, we can go into personalize and you can change that. So parameter live record, by default, it was just always on all. Now you have the option to change it to just the triggers itself. So what that will do is if I have a pattern here and I start live record mode and I start changing it, start recording a parameter in there, all these are going to be blinking because it's now live recorded those in. But if I go back to here and I change that to everything, and then I go back out and turn on live record again, and then start changing that again, if we go back in here, you'll see it applies to every single trig. So it's going to add these are called trigless trigs. There's no notes on them, but they have parameter locks on them. So yeah, that's the difference. You can apply it to all the trigs now, or just the trigs that have trigs currently on the sequencer. So basically what it means is it's not going to add any trigs that aren't already there. So that is pretty much it. There's a couple other things here and there, like in the personalized menu, they give you the option to change like the LED backlight, for example. And then there's some bug fixes, a couple other minor changes. If I missed anything or if there's anything else you want to learn about, definitely let me know. Let me know what your favorite feature is. But yeah, 1.4 update, amazing update. The Twinshot machine is just the tip of the iceberg, really. A lot of the other updates they added are amazing. And then now we have the capability of sample playback. Yeah, just phenomenal update overall. So really happy, and I can't wait to explore this even further.